And she was just turned 8.
Right.
Yeah, just turning 8, and then the kids are pretty well behaved, right? I don't remember that little, yeah. I think it's kindergarten and first grade, low level, and education conference. And at first, there's no audience, and then she starts speaking. Everybody came, and it was a full house. That was most spectacular, yeah.
Oh, and I told people, since I assumed everyone had cell phones, and I asked them whether any of their friends were at the conference, and I told them to get out their cell phones and call all their friends and tell them to come.
Very good.
That was pretty cool.
Well, we went to pack all our equipment. I went and packed my computer, obviously. That's my presentation on it. And I'm going to be presenting about poetry today. So I went through the slides, and I've gone through the slides many times before as well, so I'm pretty familiar with the material. But I just reviewed it once, and so I familiarized myself more. Which way, I'm not really a perfectionist when it comes to something like cooking, for example, which anyone who has tasted my food can see easily. But I am somewhat of a perfectionist, I suppose, when it comes to like grammar or the correctness of writing. Like when I read my mom's emails, or I'm editing for them, and I look at her emails, and I'm like, Mom, you didn't do this here, blah, blah, and I get sometimes really angry. And it's in Redmond Ridge. I don't think I've heard of it before this presentation, so it gives me a chance to learn about new things that I didn't even know existed before.
And are you a bit nervous?
A little bit, but only because recently I've been doing more video conferences rather than face-to-face, so this will be sort of a new thing for me almost, because even though I've been doing it for so many years, this is my first one of this school year, and so it's a pretty big event.
We'll chat in the car. I think that would be good.
Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't say I try to build up my persona, although I never really looked at it that way. I suppose that, I was going to say, I suppose that I eat more food than normal perhaps before a presentation, but I don't think that you meant larger than life physically. Yeah, sometimes that happens, but I think that really it's not quite exaggeration, it's just sort of a different side. Yes, I guess you could say that.
Do you feel that happening as you prepare?
Yes, really most things are in front of an audience. Our performances, I mean, from just reading out loud to giving a presentation, I would say those are all performances. Anything really in front of an audience, yeah. I prefer not to eat bananas in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
They're midnight food. I've heard chocolate helps too, but it can't be like, I don't think it can be too dark. I'm about the same as yesterday. Yeah, but only when I swallow, so that's the main thing.
It's become pretty routine because she's done so many places, and so I know she would do very well. And then the poetry presentation is one of her favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really good. I don't quite recall. I was nervous because I think I always have the confidence in her that she will do well, and she's increasingly improving constantly. Just a kind of a passion for learning, not just from books. It's from this experience that she gets from life, from doing things. So I believe that if you give kids the opportunity to do things, they're always going to learn. So learning is not narrow to books, and it's really a wide range. To probably 10-15 minutes to get there and then get ready. Uh, 87 here, so you're gonna go straight down.
Right.
Reach 79, turn left.
Good
No,
stuff.
it says turn left on 166th Avenue, any.
What is a turn left and turn north?
Oh,
See?
that's number 3 though.
Yeah, that's where I'm right now.
Oh.
So we're gonna go straight, turn left on 79. This.
Yes, I think so. My ears are a little funny feeling because we just went down the hill pretty. Well, I'm all right with it. I prefer walking, but obviously there are some distances that it's very annoying to walk too. So.
Or not possible to walk.
Yeah, not possible is what I meant to say.
Like to England, right? You want to go.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't be. These are really more bike oriented now, since car gasoline is so expensive. I suppose that I don't like the car mostly when I'm a pedestrian. When I'm
Yeah.
inside the car, I like the car usually. Well, I'm okay with long road trips, but usually my favorite part about long road trips is stopping at rest
you know what?
stops. So,
We went over. This is 76th Street now.
Do I need to go left?
Yeah, we need to go left on 79th Street though.
Ah.
So probably need to go up 3 blocks.
So, okay.
yes, I suppose so. I've been doing a lot of teaching, so.
Is it straight on here, Mum?
Yeah.
I see. And are you proud of that moniker?
I would say so. I love teaching, and I think it's a great profession.
Okay, Avondale Avenue. You're gonna see.
Turn left on Avondale Way and
Yeah, you're on.
northeast. Sorry. Left on Avondale Way.
Well, this is the Avondale Way, so you should turn right then, because think about it.
So I think so. Also, writing that should provide something as well.
Yeah.
This one is really face to face with my audience. Is pretty rare these days because I tend to do more video conferences. However, it's still quite a big part of my lectures.
Yeah. So how many do you reckon you do on average in a month, face to face with an audience?
It really depends on the month. I would say somewhere around 2 to 7. Often when I'm traveling, I'll do many face-to-face school presentations. That's very hard to say. There are benefits to both. For instance, in video conferencing, I'm able to speak to people over long distances with very little preparation without having to travel anywhere. Whereas when I am face to face, I have to travel some distance. But the good thing about being face to face is that I'm able to call on people. I'm able to hand out things.
Adora, try and resist looking down the camera.
Oh yes, sorry.
I would say so, yes. I really have gotten into the habit, and it's really now my life almost. It's very important to me. I wouldn't quite call myself isolated because I still have a lot of contact with the outside world. However, at the same time, yes, I think it does give me the chance to meet new people, make friends, and learn a lot. When I teach them, I feel like it's sort of the reward for all the work that I've been doing.
And why is that? Why do you feel that way?
Well, because when I actually get the chance to see how children have been inspired, to see the results of my work, it's very rewarding.
And what about the ego side of it? I mean,
Yes. And we're supposed to go, yeah, this general direction is correct, but we need to go to northeast Novelty Hill. We already reached the back there, I believe, North 104th Street. Probably pull over somewhere where you can. Yeah.
That's why I bring it outside.
Okay, so you're gonna look at the sign that says
Satellite reception.
Novelty Hill.
Novelty
Hill Road.
Northeast Novelty Hill Road.
Well, how do I read this direction? Turn right or turn left here?
Turn slight right.
But we're coming to the wrong direction, you see? We're turning around.
I
This
suppose
direction is
slight left then.
Yeah. So turn slightly left onto Northeast Novelty Hill Road and then turn right onto Cedar Park Press.
Would be a cool. This is just
Yeah,
so
but this is
small.
turning into another road though.
so I don't.
Well, there is always a risk, but I'm willing to risk it because I think that most audiences are pretty good. The audiences I've have none have been really, really horrible. Excuse me, sorry.
Bless you.
Okay, so we need to look for the Cedar Park Crest, northeast
Crescent,
crescent. Yeah. So turn right onto. If you see Cedar,
Yeah, away from you.
Well, I think that it would actually be kind of interesting to have a little vacation.
Yeah.
That's how I would look at it, a sort of vacation. I wouldn't want, I mean, even a vacation you don't want to go on too long, however. So, I would probably miss it somewhat. However, it wouldn't affect me, like I wouldn't be crying, I wouldn't have,
temper tantrum.
no, I wouldn't have a temper tantrum, so it wouldn't affect me too much. However, I would still miss it very much. Well, I think that this is more than work to me. This is actually quite enjoyable. This is play almost in some ways. This is giving me a lot of experience and education. I don't really look at it so much as work.
Good.
It would be nice to take a vacation. I think for most things, everyone wants a vacation, however much they're enjoying their normal life. I think because vacations mean something special, something different, something exciting. And while teaching is still very exciting to me, I think that it's become sort of part of my daily routine. So taking a vacation might provide me a sort of new thing, a sort of excitement. And I would still like to come back from my vacation, however. I would miss teaching a great deal, but I think that any vacation, from anything really, even from learning, although I always learn during my vacations, any vacation would be sort of interesting.
Sure. How do you?
Actually, Actually, in many ways, I love to play outside, make mud structures, and then demolish them. I like to spend a lot of time in the culinary arts. Well, I suppose that is mental. A little. I like to make little messes in the kitchen. That's very enjoyable. So actually, I do play around a lot around the house, outside, and do a lot of mental breaks during my day. I have a lot of mental.
Police are coming.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that. I think that would happen, actually. If it did, well, it would depend on whether there were any scheduled video conferences. If there were a scheduled video conference, I would go ahead and have that video conference, after which I would presume to skip on my rope and eat chocolate.
Good stuff. Well done.
We've been here before.
It's only
I
Tuesday.
know. I got it. We've been here before, Novelty Hill. We bought our old bed. Remember we came here?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's very pristine, suburban, typical neighborhood.
Information on email that I've sent her. Welcome, and also for waiting so long. I apologize, we were late. My mom and I are a little directionally impaired, if you know what that means. Let's just say we're kind of bad with finding places. However, when we drove up to your school, we were just amazed. It's very beautiful, very nice, and we saw the artwork on the wall, and it's very beautiful. So thank you very much for this, just this wonderful chance to meet all of you. And again, sorry to keep you waiting. So today, does anyone want to guess what we'll be learning about? Yes? We're going to review some of that information. We're going to write a poem of our own together. Maybe it'll be a very funny poem, and then we can read it out loud. So it'll be a great day with a lot of activities. Let me introduce myself. My name's Adora Svitak. I'm the author of Flying Fingers, Master the Tools of Learning Through the Joy of Writing. And this is the book that I wrote at the age of 7, and I published at the age of 7. More recently, my sister and I, my older sister and I, have come with this book, Dancing Fingers, and it is a book of poetry. I want to make sure that everyone in the back can hear me, so raise your hand if you can hear me over there. Okay, great, thank you. Let me put your Chinese version. So this book is going all around the world, and it's really cool to think about that my book is being read by people in China, in Taiwan, in England, and here in the US. Okay, so now we will move on into the poetry segment of the presentation. Let's see if I can put this on presentation mode. And here we are. Poetry made easy. Poetry, literature in verse. Literary works written in verse, in particular verse writing of high quality, great beauty, emotional sincerity or intensity, or profound insight. Now, I'm not quite sure what that means, but I think it means basically that poetry is a little different than just writing in sentences. It's in verse, after all, and it's supposed to be pretty good. Okay, that's my understanding of that definition. But what's your definition of poetry? What do you think poetry is? Yes? They're much easier to understand. And I think that's a good point, because in poetry, we can really express our thoughts, express how we feel. You know, there's actually a restaurant in Japan that allows you to hurl plates at the wall, and then they'll get broken. Just if you're mad, you can like hurl at a specific circle that says, I'm mad because da da da. So that's a sort of violent way of expressing your anger. I prefer poetry myself, because poetry allows me to actually write some really beautiful stuff, and for all of you to write some great words while also getting rid of our anger and expressing it. And it's not just anger we can express through poetry. We can express all kinds of emotions, and poetry is just a good vehicle for expressing emotion. Not to mention that a poem can be however long or short you want it to be. And because of that, you don't necessarily have to dedicate yourself to a poem the way you would to a story. Like a story, you have to take maybe a little while on. You need to really plot it out quite a bit. Whereas a poem, you get an idea, you might plan out a little bit, then you can write it. And poems, you can scribble down quickly. Very quickly, so maybe you can just get an idea for a poem while you're in the car and you can write that down, whereas a story you really want to think it out a little more. And I love writing stories, but poems are another great way to express yourselves. You may put your hands on. I'm glad to see that some of you did not raise your hand because I've been stuck trying to think of ideas before, and I know people who have as well. In fact, when I talk to classes from everyday life, current events, and pictures. You can get lots of inspirations for poetry from the things you see around you. So take a good look around. What do you see? Yes?
I see computers and chairs.
Okay, you see computers and chairs. Very good. Yes?
A whole lot of books.
A whole lot of books. Very good. Anything else? Yes?
Well, I see popcorn.
I see popcorn. Where is that actually? I'm getting a little hungry. Okay, great. I think no, I'm kidding. I'm not going to go and grab some quite yet. Well, okay, so you really see all kinds of different things. Lots of books, you see popcorn, you see computers and chairs. So maybe just looking around you, you could write a poem about a chair. You could describe the chair over here. Describe what it looks like, the colors. You could maybe describe a computer. You could get an idea from a computer. You could describe working on a computer, some of the things you do on a computer. Maybe you had a question and you had to go to the computer, something like that. You could write about books, and I think books, personally, are a wonderful topic for poetry. You can write so many things about books, and you learn so many things from books. It's an excellent topic. So just looking around you, we got more than like 3 or 4 ideas. We got many, many ideas for poetry. Trees, houses, coats, sidewalks, plastic containers, snowflakes on the ground. All of these are things you might see around you. And you might think, plastic container, how can you write a poem from that? But really, does anyone want to give me an idea of how you could write a poem based on a plastic container? Yes?
You could write about how it holds food or something like that.
Very interesting, very good. So maybe you wouldn't even have to write just about the plastic container. You could write about what was inside the plastic container. Like maybe there was some moldy, putrid food. Oh, I love the word putrid. Egg, flipping them, and it landed on the floor, and it oozed out a little. Now, if I exaggerated this, she would grab the pan, twirl, almost like it was alive, out of the pan, do a double plie in the air. Okay, maybe pancakes can't do plies, but let's pretend they can. And then, as if time had stopped, it seemed to freeze. And then it sped down, it whizzed down, and landed splat on top of my sister's head. Then oozed down, as if like a tiara, and the oozing batter were jewels. It oozed down all over her beautiful $100,000 Swarovski crystal embedded dress. Okay, so that is way dramatic. Just as my dad pulled up in the car, ready to take her to her first concert at Carnegie Hall. So, as you can see, that is a lot exaggerated, and I might have added some things that weren't quite real, that didn't exist before, like the $100,000 price tag. But it made it a lot more dramatic. So you can really exaggerate things you think might be boring. Here's one of my animal poems. You know, animal poems, you can write animal poems based on animals. So who would like to tell me some of their favorite animals? Yes? A dog, okay. And there are actually many types of dogs, so maybe you could write about a poodle or a chihuahua or a Labrador. So you could write about any kind of dog or just dogs in particular. Okay. Yes. A horse, very good. And again, there are many types of horses. Yes. A tiger. No, that's very exciting. You could write about a tiger's teeth as well. Yes.
I like elephants.
Elephants. Me too. Actually, yesterday I had to find some clip art of elephants for presentation. Yes.
Eagles.
Eagles, very good. Bald eagles, little brown, you know what. Anyway, so while that might not be the greatest image right there, we can sort of imagine what the person in this poem is thinking. And while I've never actually owned a cow, I think I would be pretty annoyed if that happened to me. A cow ran away and was always like annoying and not very productive during her life. Okay, so we can write poems based on animals. They're a great inspiration. And there are so many animals out there, and some species that haven't even been discovered, like of tiny little insects, that you'll probably have a pretty constant stream of ideas. All of you have sneezed before, right? Yeah. Okay, everyone, right? I heard you sniff a little. I hope you're not coming down with a cold. I have a little cold myself, so I sneezed today, actually. I'm not sure all of you have gotten half your family sick, have to be grounded because of a sneeze, sneeze so loud you thought it could be heard in outer space. However, have any of you done that? Okay, would you like to tell me about that specific instance? Are you very sure you sneezed so loud it could be heard in outer space, and you sneezed a sneeze so wet that it reached around all over and soaked sandwiches? That's a little gross to think about, but in any case, we can use our imagination to exaggerate real-life events and turn them into exciting, interesting poems, which is what I did with my poem, The Sneeze. I think I might feel a sneeze coming on, actually. But so in The Sneeze, I say, well, this person has sneezed, but I really exaggerate. Some of you think that you lead a somewhat boring life, and I know that we might think, well, our lives aren't really that interesting, but really, we have so many personal experiences, so many things that have happened to us. So, I mean, by the time you're 5, 6, 7, you will have had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many years you lived of experiences. My poem, Weeping Willow, was based on a weeping willow tree I saw on a walk. So just the normal things you see, maybe going on a walk, like a certain kind of tree, you could write a poem about. Here's my poem. I should like to live under the weeping tree and not do chores at night. I would watch the fairies dance and play by morning light. I would not have work to do. My days would be carefree. My Davenport, the sturdy branch, the birds, my symphony. My parents' calls would go ignored. Instead, I'd hear advice from my friends, the ladybugs, and cats and rats and mice. The weeping tree always consoles with gentle touch of dew. I'd like to live under the weeping tree, wouldn't any of you? So in this poem, I'm just talking about a weeping willow, but I'm making sure in class and you're asking, well, may I go to the bathroom or something like that. So asking a question, we do that pretty much every day. And we can get poems just from the answers we learn, just from questions. Maybe we can build a poem around the questions we ask. It's a cool thing to think about. You can also use poetry to vent your feelings. I watch news of politics a lot in my everyday life, and I'm sometimes frustrated by the way things work. So some of my frustration is channeled in The Perfect Club, which is a poem I wrote. So how many of you watch the news? Okay, great. I see a lot of raised hands. Thank you. May put your hands down. News, you might think it's somewhat boring, but news is really a great way to learn about things. And you might think as well that news doesn't really affect you because what's happening a world away can't really affect what you're doing every day. But actually, maybe a decision someone makes in China could affect the way you live here at home. Maybe something that an architect does in New York City could affect the way that the houses are built here in Redmond. So decisions that are made even far away can really affect us every day. And you can write poems about things you learn in the news. That might sound kind of weird, but actually it's a great idea. Yet another inspiration. You can use pictures as inspirations for your poetry. That dusty old photograph of a person looking bored could inspire you to write a poem about, well, what else? What to do when you're bored. I actually wrote a poem about when I was bored based on a picture. That was kind of an interesting poem. Now moving on, types of poetry and other useful stuff. Okay, so I'm going to run through this quickly. There are many types of poems, but today we'll focus on haikus, sonnets, free verse, and limericks. Haikus are a form of Japanese poetry with 17 syllables and 3 unrhymed lines of 5, 7, and 5 syllables, often describing nature or a season. So if you like writing about nature or animals, then you should probably write a haiku because haikus are great ways to get that across. Moving on quickly, this is a haiku of my own. A lone chirp, the bird, left behind its own nest, welcoming the dawn. Sonnets are 14-line rhyming poems with set structure. William Shakespeare, the noted British poet, was famous for sonnets. Have any of you heard of William Shakespeare? Okay, great. I see a few raised hands. Thank you very much. You may put those on. Yeah, he's a very good writer, so I advise you, maybe for some of you when you get a little older, that you should probably try to read his work. And a free verse poem is usually unrhymed with lines of different lengths. The American poet Walt Whitman wrote free verse. Okay, I might not read that aloud since we don't have too much time left, but last but not least, limericks are 5-line poems that are usually humorous. The rhyme scheme is A, A, B, B, A. Okay, I'd like to know how much time we have left in the session. Okay, so we can write a poem together then. Moving on to, and for a limerick. Wow, okay, thank you. I put those hands down. Now, true. Yeah, I think that's quite a bit. Oh, you might have a point there. If you're not careful, they'll eat you too. Oops, didn't mean to put a P right there. Pandas. What should our next line be? It should be saying about pandas that isn't true. Like, let's say pandas, and I want to fit as much, half the reason that might be a little hard to rhyme. So how about pandas have big claws and something else? Yes? To cut their hair. They never grow bang. Opposite pandas. You know, pandas are sort of gentle, peaceful creatures, and here we've given them teeth, long claws, fangs. We've made them seem very interesting, or something that they're not like vicious. I mean, pandas are interesting. Sorry. So how that last line is a little surprising because it doesn't rhyme with the BB, it rhymes with the first one. So it will sound a little strange sometimes in limericks, and I hope that this is okay. And you know, if you guys think that you could write a poem much better yourself, I would advise you to go at it because I want you, each one of you, to try your hand at writing a poem yourself. So if you like, you can copy down what's written here. I see some of you have already written things on your pages. Maybe you've started on your own poems. Good job, or taken notes. So if you like, you can copy this down and you can add more lines to it, which would make it not quite a limerick, but that's okay. You can add more lines to it, you can change it, you can make it better on your own time, and I would advise you guys to do that. Okay. Is my favorite subject writing or reading? Good but hard question. That is actually very difficult, and only one person has asked me this before. And my answer would be I love both of them equally. You know, the good thing about reading is that it's sometimes easier than writing, I have to say. Because reading is sort of a passive activity. You can like sit down and then just read a book. Whereas writing, you need to think. You need to come up with your ideas. You might want to plan it out a little. But at the same time, it's really quite enjoyable. So that's like asking me, what do you prefer, swimming or going down a water slide? And I would have to say, I like both of them equally. Yes?
When did you start writing?
When did I start writing? I started writing when I was 4 years old, and I published my first book, Flying Fingers, when I was 7 years old. Yes? What's my favorite book? Oh no, another hard question, but great job on asking that one. I need hard questions to keep my brain going. I have lots of favorite books, actually. I love The Hobbit. I like the series Unfortunate Events. I like the Chronicles of Narnia, Harry Potter. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of these books. I like Princess Academy and Goose Girl, both by the same author. So those are some of my favorite books. Yes? How many books have I written? Let's see. I have so far published one book, Flying Fingers, and then this is like the advanced copy. It'll be out soon. But in stories, I have written over 400 short stories. Yes? How did I become an author? Now that is a good question. Very good question. I actually became an author in many different ways. I read a lot when I was little. I read many books, and I started to really love reading, and then I thought, well, looking at these authors, they've been able to write stories, maybe I can too. And so I tried my hand at beginning writing, and then gradually I practiced, and I became better, and soon what I wrote became good enough to publish, and that's how I published it. I sent to many different publishers. Yes?
What was your first story or poem that you ever wrote?
What was my first story or poem that I ever wrote? Let's see. My first story was not as good as the ones I write today, but it was about a little boy who went into a restaurant, ate a cheeseburger, went out of the restaurant, and went back home. So that was my first story. Not a thrilling, suspenseful novel, but yes?
How much time a day do you spend writing and reading?
How much time a day do I spend writing and reading? Let's see. Unfortunately, I'm not so great with calculations, so that's hard, but let me think. I spend probably about 2 hours a day, maybe reading, 1 hour probably at night, and 1 hour in the morning, and then maybe some spread out throughout the day. As for writing, probably 2 to 3 hours as well. Most of it done at nighttime or in the morning as well. Yes?
Were you inspired by anybody?
Was I inspired by anyone? This is a very creative question. I've been inspired by many people, actually. Many authors, really all the authors that I read, they've encouraged me sort of just by reading them. I think, well, they can do this, and I put myself to a higher standard after reading their books, and I think, well, this is great. How can I make my stories this exciting or this well-written, etc.? So I really pushed myself further because of reading these authors. Also, my parents have inspired me a great deal. They work very hard and have encouraged me a lot to pursue what I'm interested in. Yes? What does it feel like being an author? Great! That is the first word I can think of to describe it. Well, it's also a lot of hard work and a lot of enjoyment. I've been able to travel around the world to places like Vietnam, China, England, France, Italy, Canada as a result of my writing. And I think that it's given me many opportunities in life as well. It's really a great feeling. Yes? How long did it take to write a book? Well, for Flying Fingers, and this is my first book, including all the editing, typesetting, publishing stuff, it took half a year to get this out in the bookshelves. And half a year is kind of a long time, but for writing a story, just a story, it might take me 2 weeks. Yes?
How do you get a book published?
How do I get a book published? Interesting question. Well, you want to finish your story, print it out like a manuscript form, or just in an email, and then send it to various publishers. You want to find a publisher who you think will be best for your story. For instance, if you're writing a book about cooking, don't send your story to a publisher who publishes only. She torments every hen and sow and has a lot of fun. A sow, by the way, is like a female pig. She gives no milk at all and moves away at night. Even when she's in her stall, she always picks a fight. Eventually, she ran away. Freedom had great allure. Away, away from her stall and hay, but she left a great deal of manure. Ew, okay. And I really should have included a nice little picture. Let's say here, right there. Pandas. What's our next time? Should we talk about pandas at Disney Tree? Anyone? Yes?
Pandas have big claws that can rip you in half.
That might be a little blood. Let's say pandas, and I would have as much half the reason that might be a little hard to rhyme. So how about pandas have big claws and something else? Yes? Never mind. Pandas have big claws and if you're not careful, they'll eat you too. Pandas have big claws and large fangs. You will never have to cut their hair. They never grow bangs. Sorry, we admit it, none of this is true. Okay, so this is an interesting limerick. We're actually saying a lot of things about pandas that are like almost the exact opposite of pandas. You know, pandas are sort of gentle, peaceful creatures, and here we've given them teeth, long claws, fangs. We've made them seem very interesting, or something that they're not like vicious. I mean, pandas are interesting. Sorry. So, how do you like this poem? Do you have any suggestions on how we could make this poem better? Yes?
When I was listening to the rhythm, I think that everything was good except for the last line because it kind of messed up the rhythm.
Last time, yes, I understand. But the thing about Limerick's is it's A, A, B, B, A. So sometimes that last line is a little surprising because it doesn't rhyme with the B, B, it rhymes with the first one. So it will sound a little strange sometimes in Limerick's. And I hope that this is okay. And you know, if you guys think that you could write a poem much better yourself, I would advise you to go at it. Because I want you, each one of you, to try your hand at writing a poem yourself. So if you like, you can copy down what's written here. I see some of you have already written things on your pages. Maybe you've started on your own poems. Good job, or taken notes. So if you like, you can copy this down and you can add more lines to it, which would make it not quite a limerick, but that's okay. You can add more lines to it, you can change it, you can make it better on your own time, and I would advise you guys to do that. Okay? Does anyone have any questions for me? Yes?
Is your favorite subject writing or reading?
Is my favorite subject writing or reading? Good but hard question. That is actually today, but it was about a little boy who went into a restaurant writing and reading. Let's see. Unfortunately, I'm not so great with calculations, so that's hard, but let me think. I spend probably about 2 hours a day maybe reading, and 1 hour probably at night, and 1 hour in the morning, and then maybe some spread out throughout the day. As for writing, probably 2 to 3 hours as well. Most of it done at nighttime or in the morning as well. Were you in Italy, Canada, as a result of my writing? And I think that it's given me many opportunities in life as well. It's really a great feeling. Yes?
How long does it take to write a book?
How long did it take to write a book? Well, for Flying Fingers, and this is my first book, including all the editing, typesetting, publishing stuff, it took half a year to get this out in the bookshelves. And half a year is kind of a long time. But for writing a story, just a story, it might take me 2 weeks. Yes?
How do you get a book published?
How do I get a book published? Interesting question. Well, you work to finish your story, print it out like a manuscript form or just in an email, and then send it to various publishers. You want to find a publisher who you think.
Poems better, or do you like writing stories better?
Do I like writing poems better or do I like writing stories better? You know, each has its own perks. The thing about writing stories is that I can go out and create a lot of characters. I do enjoy math quite a bit, especially like graphing and making bar plots and stuff like that. Okay, and okay, yes.
Do you read any of your books?
Do I read any of my own books? Yes, I actually do. Sometimes for enjoyment. Can you believe this? I've written these own books. I should know how they go. And then I find myself reading a page or two from The Spoiled Prince, and I'm like, what happens? Does he get back home? And I'm asking myself all these questions that I already know, but I still want to keep on reading. It's really funny. I'm sure other authors feel the same way about their own books somehow. Okay, now, I'd like to ask if the librarians, teachers, other administrative staff have any questions for me.
Write a poem and give it to Connor's written some fabulous poems. I read his poetry. He's an outstanding poet. If you write some poems, we'll have your
Doris lecture this morning.
That was pretty good.
So you can't do that, that's in the shop.
I didn't get it. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get it? Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, I really like poetry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh dear. I think I may have stole someone's pencil. Would you mind taking this back to whoever requested this one?
And has it inspired you to, really get back to writing and being creative?
Yeah, I've been thinking about publishing some of my poems. Like going on the internet and trying to find a website that says that it will publish my poems.
where you want to get a word in with her because she's very well connected, you know.
Okay.
Good stuff. Nice to meet you. Thanks for that.
Nice to meet you too. As I am in reading and writing, I still do enjoy math quite a bit, especially like graphing and making bar plots and stuff like that. Okay, and oh man, this is so hard. Okay, yes. Do I read any of my own books? Yes, I actually do. Sometimes for enjoyment. Can you believe this? I've written these own books. I should know how they go. And then I find myself reading a page or two from The Spoiled Prince. And I'm like, what happens? Does he get back home? And I'm asking myself all these questions that I already know, but I still want to keep on reading. It's really funny. I'm sure other authors feel the same way about their own books somehow. Okay, now, I'd like to ask if the librarians, teachers, other administrative staff have any questions for me. Marks, some cool like sort of space bookmarks basically. I will begin to hand them out. Here you are. Here you are. Thank you.
And if you want, you can actually write to me, maybe send me some of your poems that you've written at my website, dorisvtalk.com. It's on there. Here you are. Don't worry, I won't be missing you. See, okay. Anyone who hasn't gotten a bookmark, just reach out your hand, I guess. Wow, this is interesting. Now I know how people who hand out like flyers and stuff feel. Everyone is reaching for one. Here.
No, thank you.
Okay. Here.
Right, shambles there,
Yeah. Don't worry.
There you are.
It's fine.
that's
It's
fine.
fine.
Got lots of stuff in there. So,
The other
Sorry,
thing
I
is that-
have a sneeze coming. Sorry.
Joy seemed to really enjoy it.
Hmm?
They very much working
Okay, here, I'll just give you a bunch and you can hand them on.
directing the
So like pass one on to anyone who hasn't gotten.
Yeah.
Anyone else who hasn't gotten them?
How it all went, but also asking Joyce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How much she enjoyed
Oh
it.
yes, sorry.
Yeah. Great.
Who enjoyed it more?
Yeah. No,
Here you
definitely.
are.
Good. Very good.
Here you are. Here you are. And anyone else? Oh yes. Okay. Great. Thank you, everyone. You've been such a great audience today. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope that you enjoyed learning about poetry as much as I enjoy teaching about it. So I encourage you to write your own poems. You know, writing poetry is a really fun activity, and you can get ideas so easily just from all around you, from animals, from many different things, from exaggerated ideas, from pictures, from photographs, from people. So there's so many ideas in this world, and so many that you can use in poetry. So keep on writing, and have a great day. Thank you. Oh, thank you. This has been a pleasure. You guys have been so great. Oh, yeah, sure.
I was asking in the
Oops.
kids what they thought.
Let's see. Hope you have some lead. Okay.
Sorry, Hannah.
Great. Okay. Great stuff. Ready?
Two kids who were around my age, so I just looked at it as having a great conversation. Hope to sound that way, but at the same time, I hope that I'm able to relate to kids. When I was a kid, then I needed encouragement. I think my parents were always very big in giving me support and giving me also sometimes construct. Yeah, I tend to do that. Oh, I think it went very well. I think that this poetry presentation, this is one of the best. Well, I think sometimes I could have gone on a little longer because I arrived late. Then I wasn't able to get to the very end of the presentation. So it was a little rushed. But besides that, I think everything went very smoothly. They all set out, and they're very good kids. They weren't fidgety too much. They weren't too impatient at the beginning. So I would think that helped a lot. Oh, that always happens, I think. I'm like, oh, I did it again. And that's, for some reason, that always happens after I'm done reciting. Then I sort of look back and I feel very happy. Before, it was a little more because obviously I don't wear a timepiece, so I would have to always be looking at her, and she makes this little sign, the sort of cutthroat sign, and she just does the more behind-the-scenes work. So I'm able to do it pretty sufficiently by myself. However, it's great to just know that she's there. But before, I think, using the car analogy, my mom would fill up the gasoline and tinker with the car a few bits, but the car doesn't go in the wrong direction so much, so I'm having a pretty smooth ride. A little odd, and when they just go off like that, but generally I feel like, well, I'm not in school, so I'm able to sort of roam around freely, and that's the great thing about my life, is that I'm able to visit schools without being restrained by them.
You know, here's a different way for me to express what I'm learning down in the drama class from Mrs. Van, but maybe I do this in a little different way with groups of people and groups of my peers and colleagues and whatnot, so I thought that was very nice. Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of fascinating kids who can do some clever, interesting things, but this is very different, and again, I think that's good. I think it's good for the kids to see. You know, we have some clever gymnasts, and we have some kids who can sing like nobody's business, and we have some piano players that you just simply would not believe. But this is different. This is bringing on a different aspect of their life. Schools have opportunities for some kids, but there's plenty of them that happen outside too. And I think that what we need to do is recognize that and look at other ways to educate kids besides just having them sit in the classroom, which I don't discount. But I think there are many, many other ways to do that to inspire kids, and this is a good opportunity for us to learn them. Sue, my librarian, had her speak at her school when she was 7, and she'd been very impressed at that time, 3 years ago, so I knew a little bit about her.
The great thing about being in school is that you have the leadership of people, the teachers, the principals, everyone, and the staff is always there to support you.
We'll be on Joyce. When Merle's ready.
Only a very high level. And so it wasn't really a surprise to me, but it's always good to see. She has always performed well, especially see the children are really benefiting from the presentation. Just like the principal is saying, they may have other people come, but to really show children the intellectual ability and the dedication to your work really have an impact. So it actually have done it to present to the children, I think is very powerful. I think comes from my understanding of how do they understand the impact of their decision. So I think it's monumentally important that she has a responsibility in this world, and we believe as well. And we further believe that if you do have the talent, you have the ability, you bear more responsibility than people, especially she's very privileged, as you can see. She has parents who are working and able to provide her the opportunities, and so she definitely feels a strong sense of responsibility to other people who are less fortunate than she is. Good time, you don't really have a sense of being somewhat neutral. So she stays that way. And then if kids, you can see one example, the kid wanted to write something a little more violent than she deems as appropriate for young children. So she steered him another direction. Adora thinks it's not appropriate, yeah. Afterwards, what goes well, what maybe could be improved. And I think she has incredible good sense of judgment. And so even if I have not mentioned it, she already kind of realized already. And so when I do mention it, she's oh yes, I see you. I think uplifting for me, because seeing children especially, they are engaging, they are learning, and that's, I think, that one of the best feeling you can ever feel is to see somebody enjoying learning and benefiting for your knowledge and skill and talent. Her niece is going through teenage years, and so she has seen the changes through her niece. Also her sister is a preteen year. And I think Adora would have, sometimes I do tell her, your physical body change, your hormone, is something that you cannot really control. You can understand it, but not necessarily you will be able to manage. So accept yourself, accept the way your body is going to change. But I think for Adora is that she has such deep understanding of this science behind it, and also as many other support she has, I think she will transition a little smoother than I think a lot of other teenagers. I still strongly believe that she will choose something more meaningful than something she consider is not as her destiny, I believe. She understands so deeply about so-called romance, and she actually performance or so-called performance, her presentation, and critique herself and say, well, I could improve here, I could have done this. So that's kind of nice to have a record, because this kind of event, once it's happened, if you don't have a record of it, you won't be able to see it. So another thing is we do have a plan to make a documentary about Adora's journey. So it's nice to have something to present her work.
For sure.
I'm the principal, not you in it.
I won't take it personally.
Yeah, because they told me ahead of time,
Rarely.
I am completely fine with it, because I do believe even adults, we have midlife crisis, we have a lot of rethinking of our existence. So she should have the freedom to rethink her past, her future, her presence. So I am not worried. People often ask me, are you worried about this? No, because future, nobody knows. As long as she's doing well, she's happy, she's contributing, and she's happy with her life. So I'm very content. So as long as she has this passion for learning and continuously improve her skills, so I think even she wants to take a couple years break from this, and she's still going to be the extraordinary person she is, because she has the fundamental value. Is who she is loving, helping others. So that I don't think you somehow just change one day. I'm not going to be kind. There is a pressure because I often talk to her, and I think every child wants to please their parents. It's just that your parents. So, so I often ask her, don't do things just for pleasing me, and think about yourself. So she is very clear-headed. So she's not going to do something she doesn't portray herself as such, and also she actually distance herself from that title, which is what we believe in. But she can always be a great teacher. I mean, that is always going to be with her, because the ability, you don't just suddenly lose it. You only increase your ability. So I don't worry about that. I don't think it's going to happen. And she has so much substance. I think once a person has substance, no matter what circumstance you're in, you're always going to shine.
That's right. And even though it goes,
Just trying to sell education is not as easy to sell sports, humor, and I have nothing against humor. I love humor, but a comedian, probably have an easier time to entertain the kids versus, I have somebody who can really inspire your children and who has substance, who has skill, who has power. And people, if you don't tell them the age, well, it's another author, we don't want it. And if you do tell them she's special, they don't believe you because never seen her. It's something that you really have to see, and then everybody's so busy, so they don't take the time to understand her. But what makes me keep going is every single time she has delivered, and the people keep, come to us. They're so grateful. Even I get so many rejections, you wouldn't believe. You would think naturally with such a talent and ability, everybody would want her. The truth is far from the truth, and so it's kind of sad. But at the same time, kind of challenge us and encourage us to keep going, because we see so much good has done, from her. So that's the reality. Males, I would say probably